You land at Haneda Airport with a signed contract, a work visa, and the specific confidence of a person who believes they did everything right. You have a job, you have an apartment arranged by the company. You have a salary of 260,000 yen a month, which is roughly $1,750, which is roughly enough to live in Tokyo if you don't do anything stupid. Back home, you were doing everything stupid. The job paid less than your rent cost. The savings account had a balance that looked like a countdown. The apartment had a leak that the landlord fixed by telling you to put a bucket under it. So when a Japanese company offered you a contract with a visa and a relocation package, you signed it the way a drowning person grabs a rope, immediately, with both hands, without checking what's on the other end. Your mom said she was proud. Your dad asked if they have normal food there. Your friends called it main character energy, which is what people say when they want to be supportive but have absolutely no idea what you're walking into. Nobody warned you. Not because they didn't care, but because none of them had ever heard the Japanese term black company. You hadn't either. You will. The apartment is in Koto Ward, a 25-minute train ride from the office. It's a 1K, which in Tokyo means one room, plus a kitchen that functions more as a suggestion than an actual cooking space. The company found it for you, which felt generous until you realized the rent comes out of your paycheck automatically, along with utilities, residence tax, health insurance, and pension contributions. After all the deductions, your 260,000 yen becomes about 175,000. That's the number you actually live on. But you don't focus on that yet, because you're still in the part of the story where everything feels like it's working. Your first day at the office is a Monday. The company is a mid-sized marketing firm in Chuo Ward. Glass doors, clean floors, fluorescent lights that hum at a frequency just below conscious awareness but just above comfort. Everyone is already seated when you arrive at 8:50 in the morning, which means you're 10 minutes early and still the last person there. Your desk is in the back corner of an open floor plan. The chair is fine. The monitor is fine. The silence is aggressive. 40 people in one room, and the only sound is keyboards and the quiet, desperate tapping of people who look like they've been here since before the sun came up. Because they have. Your manager is a man named Suzuki Bucho. Bucho means department head, and in Japanese corporate hierarchy, the Bucho is the ceiling and the floor of your entire professional existence. He decides your tasks, your schedule, your evaluations, and the general trajectory of your future at this company. Suzuki Bucho is 52, thin, precise, and has the emotional range of a stapler. He doesn't yell, he doesn't need to. He controls the room with silence and the occasional look that could curdle milk at 40 meters. He welcomes you with a short speech about the company's values, dedication, harmony, perseverance. He says the word perseverance the way a doctor says, "This might sting," with full knowledge that it's going to be significantly worse than that. Week 1 is orientation. You fill out forms, learn the internal systems, and attend meetings where people present slides that contain more text than most novels. Your coworkers bow and hand you business cards with both hands, which is the Japanese way of acknowledging your existence with the maximum respect available in a 3-second interaction. Everyone smiles. Nobody asks you to lunch. At 6 p.m. on your first Friday, you finish your tasks, save your files, and stand up. The air in the room shifts. Not dramatically, not like a movie, more like the temperature dropped half a degree and nobody told you why. Nobody else is standing. The clock says 6. Your contract says 6. But every single person in this office is still seated, still typing with the energy of people who have no intention of leaving anytime soon. You look at Suzuki Bucho. He's not looking at you, but you can feel that he knows you're standing. In Japan, there's a concept called kuki wo yomu, which literally translates to read the air. It's the unspoken expectation that you will understand what's required of you without anyone telling you directly. Nobody tells you to sit back down. The air tells you, you sit. That first Friday, you leave at 8 p.m. You tell yourself it's just the first week and it'll normalize. It does normalize. It normalizes at 10 p.m., then 11. By the end of month 1, your day runs from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 15 hours, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Your contract says 40 hours. You're working 75. The extra 35 don't exist on any timesheet. In Japan, this is called service zangyu, which means service overtime, unpaid hours that the company doesn't record but absolutely expects you to deliver. If you log your real hours, you create a paper trail that makes the company liable, so nobody logs them. The system works because everyone participates in the lie at the same time. It's a collective hallucination maintained by social pressure. And it's as Japanese as cherry blossoms and vending machines on every corner. Every morning begins with chore, the morning assembly. The entire department stands in rows while Suzuki Bucho reads announcements. And then each team member states their goals for the day and reflects on yesterday's mistakes, out loud, in front of everyone. The first time you hear a grown man apologize to 40 people for sending an email with a formatting error, you think it's a joke. It's not. Public accountability performed as public humiliation, dressed in the language of self-improvement. Month 2, you do the math because the math is the only thing that doesn't lie. Your salary is 260,000 yen for what's supposed to be 160 hours of work per month. That comes out to 1,625 yen per hour, which sounds reasonable. But you're working 300 hours. At 300 hours, your real hourly rate drops to 867 yen. The minimum wage in Tokyo is 1,113 yen. You, a professional with a degree and a visa and a signed contract, are earning less per hour than the teenager working the register at the convenience store where you buy your dinner every night at 11 p.m. because you haven't had time to cook a single meal since you got here. The math doesn't make you angry, it makes you tired. And anger requires energy, which is a resource you no longer have in supply. You meet Tanaka during one of the late nights. It's 11:30 p.m., which in this office qualifies as winding down, and there are still 9 people at their desks. Tanaka sits 2 rows ahead of you. He's been at the company for 6 years. He's 34 years old and looks 45. You meet at the vending machine in the hallway, both reaching for the same black coffee, Boss brand, 130 yen. He looks at you and says in careful English, "You're still here." You say, "So are you." He almost smiles. Almost. You start having these vending machine conversations. Brief, quiet, always after 11. He tells you things in small pieces. He hasn't taken a vacation day in 2 years. Not because he can't, but because taking vacation means someone else covers your work, and that creates a social debt. And social debts in a Japanese office are obligations that never expire. He has a daughter. She's 4. He shows you a photo on his phone, a girl in a yellow kindergarten hat, smiling with her whole face. He says he leaves for work before she wakes up and comes home after she's asleep. On weekdays, the only proof he has a child is this photo and the drawings she leaves on his pillow that he finds at midnight. He says this without self-pity, the way a weather report describes rain. Neutral, inevitable. Tanaka is not your friend. Tanaka is a forecast of what year 6 looks like, and year 6 looks like a man drinking canned coffee at midnight, showing a stranger a photo of a daughter who doesn't know what her father looks like in daylight. Month 4. Your body starts keeping a ledger of everything you owe it. You sleep 5 hours a night because 5 hours is what remains after you subtract the commute, the shower, and the 1 hour of blank staring at your phone that your brain requires before it agrees to shut down. You eat convenience store onigiri at your desk because the last person who took a full lunch break got a meeting with Suzuki Bucho about time management priorities. You stop texting people back home, not out of spite, but because you can't explain what's happening in a way that makes sense to anyone who hasn't lived it. "How's Tokyo?" they ask. What do you say? "I haven't seen daylight on a weekday in 2 months. I eat rice balls at my desk and apologize to a room full of strangers every morning for mistakes that didn't matter." So you send a thumbs up emoji and put the phone face down on the desk. Month 5. You decide to quit. The decision doesn't arrive as a dramatic moment. It arrives as a quiet malfunction. You're sitting at your desk at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, formatting a report that nobody will read until Monday. Outside the window, Tokyo is lit up like a circuit board. Millions of lights in millions of windows. And you realize you can't remember what day it is. Not metaphorically, literally. Your brain cannot retrieve whether this is Wednesday or Thursday or Saturday, because every day has merged into one continuous fluorescent hum that never ends and never changes. That's the moment, not a breakdown, just a calm recognition that you've become a machine that converts rice balls into spreadsheets and you've forgotten how to be anything else. You go to Suzuki Bucho the next morning and tell him you'd like to resign. His face doesn't change. He asks you to sit. Then he explains calmly that your visa is tied to this company. If you quit, your visa loses its basis. You'll have a limited window to find a new sponsor or leave the country. He says this the way you'd read a return policy. Factual, detached, efficient. Then he adds something else. He says the company invested in your relocation. He says your colleagues adjusted their workflows to include you. He uses the word meiwaku, which means causing trouble for others. And in Japanese culture, meiwaku is one of the heaviest accusations you can level at a person. It means your individual needs are damaging the group. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't threaten. He just places that word on the table like a brick and lets gravity do the work. You go back to your desk. You stay for 3 more weeks, but during those 3 weeks, you research, and you discover something that could only exist in Japan. It's called Taishoku Daiko, a resignation agency. For 20,000 to 50,000 yen, a company will quit your job for you. They call your employer, submit your resignation letter, negotiate your exit, and collect your belongings from the office. This service exists because the social pressure to stay is so enormous that an entire industry has emerged around helping people do the one thing their culture makes nearly impossible, which is to say, "I'm done," and mean it. You pay 30,000 yen. That's about $200 to purchase your own autonomy. The agency calls Suzuki Bucho on a Thursday morning at 9 a.m. while you sit in your apartment drinking coffee. Your phone rings once. Resignation submitted and accepted. Don't contact the company. Your belongings will be mailed. That's it. You never go back to that office. You never see the fluorescent lights, the morning assembly, the vending machine in the hallway. The chair you sat in for 5 months is empty by 9:15. By 9:30, someone has already moved their things to your desk. The machine adjusts. The machine always adjusts. You have 3 weeks left on your visa to find a new sponsor or book a flight home. You spend the first morning doing absolutely nothing. You sit on the floor of your apartment and let the silence settle, and you notice that this silence is nothing like office silence. Office silence is 40 people suppressing their humanity. This silence is just a room with no one in it. The next day you leave your apartment at 10 a.m. This is the first time in 5 months that you've seen your neighborhood during daylight on a weekday. There's a park 2 blocks away that you didn't know existed. There's a bakery on the corner with a line out the door. There's an old woman watering flowers in front of a house with a cat asleep on the wall. A kindergarten class walks past in a line, each kid holding a rope, wearing yellow hats like Tanaka's daughter in the photo. You stand on the sidewalk and watch them pass, and you realize that 5 months of your life in this city happened entirely between a train platform in the dark and an office under fluorescent light. The neighborhood was alive the whole time. You just weren't in it. You find a new job within the 3 weeks. A language school in Shibuya. The pay is lower, 220,000 yen. The hours are real. You leave at 6 and nobody looks at you. You have evenings. You have weekends. You walk through your neighborhood while the sun is still up, which after 5 months of darkness feels like the most expensive luxury Tokyo has to offer. On a Sunday afternoon, you walk through Chuo Ward and pass your old office building. The lights are on. Every floor. It's Sunday and the lights are on. You look up at the 5th floor and see shapes moving behind the glass. People are in there, working, on a day that belongs to them. You think about Tanaka. You think about the photo of his daughter in the yellow hat. You think about the drawings on the pillow he finds at midnight. You think about telling him that there's a service that costs 30,000 yen and gives you your life back, but you don't go in because Tanaka knows it exists. Everyone in that building knows. The ads run on every train in Tokyo. The problem was never information. The problem is that in a culture built on never causing trouble for others, the most radical act a person can commit is to decide that their own life is not meiwaku. You keep walking. The lights in the building stay on. Somewhere on the 5th floor, a man is drinking canned coffee and looking at a photo of a girl in a yellow hat who is growing up without knowing what her father looks like when the sun is out. And the machine keeps running because the machine doesn't need any specific person. It just needs a body in the chair. And there is always another body. That wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is fiction. But in Japan, black company isn't slang. It's an official category. The government publishes lists. Workers' rights organizations track them. And every year, thousands of people, Japanese and foreign, walk into buildings that look clean and professional and legitimate and spend years inside a system designed to extract everything and return as little as possible. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment and tell me which part hit the hardest. I've got more stories like this coming, so hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.